Hello and welcome to Around the Wickets on ThePapare.com. We are talking to you during a very gloomy period. When I say the gloom, we're talking about the weather that prevails over Sri Lanka. But having said that, I really can't see too much of sunshine on the Sri Lankan cricket team too on their tour of Australia. Things haven't really looked good, contrary to the expectation. The sadness, as far as I'm concerned, is not the results. Australia is not an easy team to defeat in Australia. We'll ask Jehan Mubarak about it as we move on. But I'm sure, Jehan, your concern is also the manner of defeat. I mean, being trounced by 132 runs in the first game when Sri Lanka combined sum total couldn't get what Warner got, and then you lose by 9 wickets in the second game. Now, how disappointed are you considering where Sri Lanka was in Pakistan and where they are now?
Disappointed. We all expected more from that result, but what I'm most disappointed is, as you said, Roshan, how we played cricket. And that the urgency, the team spirit, the way we played, everyone really looked like they were enjoying their cricket in Pakistan, which I didn't see in Australia.
They appear to be kind of under pressure, isn't it?
They seemed to be under pressure. They were
Body
language, running between was poor. The communication. So all that, it didn't seem to be that the team had got together. It didn't look like a team that had won 3-0 in the previous series. It looked like a team that was still finding their feet. Perhaps some of it is to do with players coming back and a change of captaincy, still trying to, the team is still gelling together. But at international level, you expect teams to pick things up as they hit the ground.
Yeah, you're right. But having said that, we need to also give them some space. Space in the sense, Australian pitchers are so different to the subcontinental pitchers, Jehan, as you know. The bounce has been a concern to the Sri Lankan batsmen. The Australians have been aiming at just back of a length, and also I've been very impressed watching them in the first two games. The lines they bowled, they were so much at you. No space, particularly outside the off stump where the freeing of arms was possible. Now, these are all reasons that we could, dwell about, ponder about. But see, what surprised me is 3 changes in the second game. Now, I'll come to that. I heard the chairman of selectors say, or at least if I heard him right, he was trying to emphasize on the fact that the replacements were the more established batsmen. So they were thinking of using them as a measure to try and win the game. I think it's fantastic, good thinking. But what does it do to the likes of Bhanuka Rajapaksa and Oshada Fernando, who didn't look bad in Pakistan? They didn't look bad, and how harsh was it to be left out on one innings?
I understand that sentiment. Established batsmen, they come back into the team, fine. If so, then that should have happened from the first game.
Absolutely.
And then whoever plays at least 2 games. I would play the same team for 3 games, maybe change one or two.
Maybe Kasun Rajitha's change is a good
so
one.
based on performance, 1 or 2 players come in or out if you're not batting well, not bowling well. But this is obviously not based on performance. This is based on how they feel a certain player will be able to take up the challenge.
Is it Jehan? Now, one of the issues that Sri Lanka always had, or not always, I'm sorry, I need to rephrase, like since about 2016-17, was a touch of desperation. Sometimes you'll reach levels of desperation where you have so much of swings from one end to the other. Now, 3 changes, how would you analyze it? Watching from outside, is it a touch of desperation, or is it the desire, the bad? Okay, there is a difference between wanting to win and desperation. How would you
I wouldn't say so much of desperation, but I think it's more about we don't know what our strengths are. The selectors, maybe the team, the seniors in the team, Lasith himself, whether the three groups know what the strength of the team is, who are our best openers, who are best number 3s, who are best death bowlers.
That's a strong statement you're making.
Because we are not sure who are opening batsmen. We are not sure who are best number 3s.
No, but
we are not sure who are best wicket keepers.
But now listen. Now, when you make that statement, I got to spring to the defense. Not in a positive sense, but merely logically defending. Because if you have those guys been there for long enough, they should know all this what you're talking about. And then Kusal Mendis was used as an opener in the New Zealand series. He came off well. So, in fairness, Avishka Fernando struggled in Pakistan. So, Do you still think that the people in charge really didn't understand it when they put the 11 together?
Either I don't see why it's shuffling around so much.
That I agree. I mean, the shuffle I agree. Because, the 3 changes, I was also kind of shocked. But having said all that, Jehan, and to a certain extent I know, that we are watching them from thousands of kilometers this side, and they are away. They are almost in the firing line. They are in the battlefield. So what I would like to kind of end this little chat and move on to the next topic is with the comfort that they should be knowing what they are doing. That's number one. And also they are an experienced unit. So I'm sure they have very good reasons for whatever they do, but in the eyes of most people, with the result, those reasons aren't holding water. Is that a fair assessment?
Okay, that's a fair summation for the moment.
So we got one more game to go. That is in
Melbourne.
Now that should be an easier service to bat on.
Well, Adelaide also
at least
would
in terms of bounce.
In terms of bounce, one thing we have to understand, Roshan, is that they are going into an environment that's completely different to what they have been used to. And the wickets in Australia, especially at the Gabba, there was a lot of bounce, and the fast bowlers were coming hard at us. Everything was up here around the hip height.
And they made it very clear. They said we are going to bowl back of a length.
Yeah, and they made that statement. So it's a big culture shift to the way we have been used to playing cricket. Even for the bowlers, bowling back of a length doesn't work against the Australian batsmen on those pitches. The spinners also, I thought they bowled too short. And maybe take a pace off a little bit.
Don't you think Sandakan was far too slow? I mean, that's something that's a little bit too obvious.
Yeah. And I felt it was too short.
Yeah.
And on those pitches, you can just sit off the back foot and just hit through the line. There is not much turn. So wherever the ball is, you can just hit through the line. So that change and that adaptation has to come in. And again, playing from Adelaide to Gabba and then back to Melbourne. Melbourne hopefully will be the easiest, but I think a bit of stability to give the players a little bit of time to adjust to the conditions.
Continuity. That's so important. So important. Right, let's move away from the harsher territories and to a more friendlier territory, as we might like to call it, Pakistan. I mean, very friendly and has been gentle with the Sri Lankans. They have given good results, and Sri Lanka is going back for the 2 test matches. I have no issues about it. But the point here is, the modern game is so demanding that where is this practice game? Where is the game that you go and play and just get into that mood? I think we've spoken about this many times, where thousands of hours in the nets cannot compensate for a knock in the middle. So what do you see about these kind of itineraries? 2 test matches, no practice game. You go, have a net, into the test match, take a break, into the test match.
Yeah,
and it's a test championship.
It's a test
playing
championship,
away.
yes. Yeah,
60 points at stake.
I mean, so the scheduling point, ideally you need to play some practice games. Sri Lanka, no one has played test cricket in Pakistan for a long time. I don't know if they've prepared test pitchers in Pakistan.
No idea, but I can tell you something, that they were caught napping in that first 50 over game. Yeah. I mean, they never expected rain, I'll tell you, not in the way not in the way the rain really appeared. And Karachi was far from being ready, and then it's just then that they woke up, and then things were all right. So you're right, that's a good question. Test cricket hasn't been played for a long time. How good would the pitchers be? So you tell me, you're the expert. I'm asking you questions. Yeah.
So, I mean, okay, players, you need to get used to the pitches, the conditions, but you need some time. And we are playing T20 cricket in Pakistan, T20 cricket in Australia. Then we are playing, hopefully, some first-class cricket in Sri Lanka, and then Test cricket in Pakistan. So the players need to adjust, adapt. Some of the players are playing one-day cricket, mercantile cricket here. The weather here is not great, so we haven't had a lot of preparation.
So not ideal.
Not ideal.
60 points, Test Championship. Hopefully the seniors in it. So I'm hoping that Pakistan might be far more happier for Sri Lanka than actually what they are enduring in Australia. Now, talking in terms of happier events, the Women's Emerging Asia Cup, Sri Lanka ended up or emerged as runner-up losing to India by 14 runs. Outstanding performance by Sri Lanka, and particularly Harshita Madhavi, the captain of the emerging side. She was the player of the tournament. She's had some good records or good scores to show versus India. They had she had 55 and 1 for 11. I think that was in the first match. Bangladesh, she got another half century, and then in the final she made 39. So you reckon ladies cricket's looking up, or still a long way to go for Sri Lanka?
Still a long way to go in terms of England, Australia and India at the national level. But this is having women's emerging teams. We haven't seen that before. And that's, if we are to get there, this is where we need to start: emerging teams, A teams, development teams. And women's cricket has a lot of potential. Like Sri Lanka, the junior teams in Sri Lanka, the school setup is really good. And I see even in school cricket, women's cricket is really picking up.
Yeah, they are picking up, no doubt. And I'm hoping that women's cricket will move to another level from a Sri Lankan point of view, because we can see some talent coming through, though, as Jehan said, there's a lot of work to be done. Now, I think we're almost at the end of the show. It was quite quick, isn't it, and short?
T20 cricket.
T20 cricket, it's rather unusual. Generally, we are used to a long, drawn-out kind of program, but then this is the versatility that, the Round the Wickets on ThePapare.com brings to you. But before we close, I want to remind you that, to keep up with the latest things that are happening around the world, you need to ensure that you are subscribing to ThePapare.com, just in case you're not doing that. Right. We got to ask you our question of the week before we go. The question of the week is, name the countries that qualified for the 2020 T20 World Cup for the first time. So we just finished a qualifier in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, I think. So there was 2 teams, or in fact there were some newcomers that came in. So we are asking you for the names of the countries that qualified for the T20 World Cup, which happens for the first. Oh no, what am I saying? Name the countries that qualify for the 2020 T20 World Cup for the first time. The T20 World Cup has happened. We're talking about the countries that are in for the first time. I'm sorry. I believe you got my question right this time. Right, last week we asked the question, name the player who scored the most runs for Sri Lanka in their first T20 encounter was Australia. And the man seated next to me, I think, was blushing, and I didn't pick it up. And I know now why. Because the answer is Jehan Mubarak, Cape 2007.
Yeah, it wasn't a very high score.
Doesn't matter, you're still the top scorer, man. Accept that. It's you need to take the good in the bad. Don't make it look worse. We're not going to even ask you how much. You were the top scorer. The winner, Temia Prabhat. Congratulations. Well done, Temia. And indeed, you got your answers right. So that's the story on Around the Wickets on ThePapare.com. We hope you enjoyed it. And sorry we didn't have too much of happy news and good news from a Sri Lankan cricket point of view, but hopefully next time, who knows, we will have some wonderful news. Until then, it's goodbye from me and Jehan Mubarak.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos like this, and don't forget to hit the bell icon for our latest content.